They thought the storm would never come for them until they woke up and realized the flood was already at their door. Now imagine this for a moment, chosen one. The very same hands that tried to pull you under are now clawing for air themselves. The same whispers they used to stain your name are now echoing back at them in rooms they never thought they'd be exposed in. This isn't just karma. This is karma with a spotlight, a microphone, and a memory sharper than any blade. And the most satisfying part? It waited until they were comfortable, until they thought they'd gotten away with it, before flipping their world upside down. Here's the thing. Psychologists have found that when people believe they're untouchable, they start taking bigger risks. They get sloppy. They overplay their hand. And when the universe finally calls their bluff, it's not just their reputation that collapses. It's their entire sense of control. That's why watching their downfall feels so poetic, because you know deep down, it's the very chaos they created that came back to consume them. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe to help spread this message to more souls, as it's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. And thank you, chosen one, for being part of this mission. You are part of a force. Now back to our story. You see, this wasn't some random twist of fate or harmless bit of bad luck. No, this was a perfectly timed unraveling. The kind of collapse that doesn't just bruise the ego, it leaves permanent scars. These people thought they could play with your peace like it was a game, that they could move you around like a pawn while they sat on the throne. But they forgot something. When the universe decides to balance the scales, it doesn't just even things out, it overcorrects. It makes sure the lesson is burned so deep into their soul that they'll never forget who they tried to break. It's funny because while you were rebuilding in silence, they were busy performing for their audience, trying to convince the world they'd won. But here's the part they never saw coming. The performance became their prison. The mask they wore got heavier every day until one slip exposed the truth. And once the truth was out, there was no going back. Their allies, gone. Their fake confidence, shattered. The image they spent years curating, reduced to rubble in a single blow. And chosen one, you didn't even have to lift a finger. That's the real beauty of this moment. You didn't have to get revenge. You didn't have to prove yourself. You didn't have to fight on their level. The universe did it for you. It put them in the same position they once put you in, only worse. It made sure they felt the isolation, the fear, the humiliation they thought they'd buried you under. And the irony? The very people they tried to impress are now the ones watching them fall apart. What we're talking about here is more than just payback. It's transformation. Not for them, because let's be honest, some people don't change. But for you, because seeing this happen proves that you were never wrong about them. Your intuition was spot on. Every red flag you noticed, every gut feeling you had, it's all been confirmed. And that's a level of closure no apology could ever give you. So as you listen to this, chosen one, I want you to remember something. Karma isn't always loud. It doesn't always show up in dramatic explosions. Sometimes it's slow. It's patient. It waits until the timing is perfect, and then it delivers a blow so precise that it dismantles a person from the inside out. And that's exactly what happened here. They didn't just get a taste of their own medicine. They had to swallow the whole bottle. And the best part? This is only the beginning. Because once karma starts rolling, it doesn't stop at one lesson. It keeps going until every debt is paid in full. So if they're already stumbling, just wait. The real storm hasn't even hit yet. This chosen one is why we stay true to ourselves. This is why we don't chase revenge. Because when you stand in your truth and let the universe do what it does best, the outcome is always sweeter than anything you could have planned. They learned their lesson the hard way, and trust me, they'll never forget it. So, are you ready to see exactly how this all unfolded, piece by piece? Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just a story, it's proof that the universe never forgets and never lets the wrong ones walk away untouched. If you're here right now, it's not by accident. You were meant to hear this. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to witness just how terrifyingly precise karma can be when it's got a score to settle. And trust me, chosen one, if you've ever been betrayed, underestimated, or laughed at by people who thought they were safe, you're going to feel this deep in your bones. Stay with me till the very end, because the final twist in this story will make you see why they'll never dare to cross someone like you again. Now, let's step right into it. Number 1. They laughed at your wounds. Now they're drowning in the same blood. The same mouth that laughed at your scars is now choking on its own pain. Chosen one, picture this. Imagine someone pointing at a deep cut on your skin, smirking, and telling everyone it's your fault for bleeding. That's what they did to you. They turned your suffering into their comedy, your struggles into their entertainment. They didn't just watch you in pain, they performed it for others, hoping to make themselves look stronger in comparison. But here's the twist they never saw coming. The universe was listening the whole time, and it never forgets who laughed first. They didn't know that your silence wasn't weakness, it was armor. It was the sacred, quiet place where you were stitching yourself back together piece by piece. You weren't crumbling, you were reforging. And you were doing it without asking for pity, without parading your pain for applause. Meanwhile, they mistook your rebuilding phase for fragility. They thought your bowed head meant defeat. Now, the tables aren't just turned, they've been flipped, slammed, and bolted into the ground. The exact heartbreak, betrayal, loss, or mental torment they mocked in you has moved into their life like an unwelcome house guest. And this guest isn't leaving anytime soon. Suddenly, they're living with the same sleepless nights, the same anxiety-laced mornings, the same empty silence that once wrapped itself around your days. Only this time, there's no crowd laughing along. The room is empty, the applause is gone, and the echoes are deafening. The scary part for them isn't just the pain, it's the public pain. The universe didn't hand them a quiet lesson. It dragged the stage lights over their head, turned the volume up, and let everyone watch. The mask they used to hide behind is cracking in real time. That confident smirk now twitches at the edges. That loud voice has gone hoarse. People who once sat beside them to mock you are now watching them like, damn, they're next. And you know what's haunting them most? They now understand exactly what you felt. Every jab, every side comment, every fake laugh they threw at you. It's replaying in their head like a cursed record. But it's too late for regret. You can't unspeak words that stab someone's soul. You can't unlaugh at the moment someone was fighting to breathe. Here's a fact for you. Studies show that when someone experiences the same hardship they once belittled in others, it not only shatters their self-image, but erodes their social standing. Why? Because people notice hypocrisy faster than they notice kindness. And in their case, the whispers have already started. The same audience that cheered their cruelty is now leaning in, saying, looks like they got exactly what they deserved. The truth is, chosen one, what they thought was weakness in you was depth, resilience, and grace. What they thought was strength in themselves was just borrowed arrogance, confidence on credit, and karma just called in the debt. Now they're waking up every day with the same weight they once mocked you for carrying, only theirs feels heavier because it's coated in shame. And let's be clear, this wasn't some petty eye for an eye moment. This was poetic precision. Karma didn't just hit the spot, it hit the spot they thought was untouchable. It pierced the place they kept hidden, the space they believed no one could ever reach. And now they're learning the most brutal truth of all. The universe doesn't return energy quietly. It makes sure the return is loud enough for the whole room to hear. So let them cry the same tears they once rolled their eyes at. Let them taste the same bitterness they swore you were too sensitive to handle. And let the lesson sink deep, because they're not just facing a consequence, they're living inside one. And trust me, chosen one, they'll never look at your story as weakness again. Now it reads like a prophecy they wish they'd listened to before it became their own. Number 2, they fired the shot, but the bullet came back and hit them first. They dug a hole for you so deep, they never noticed they were already standing in it. Chosen one, imagine this. Someone so sure they've set the perfect trap for you, they've calculated every step, every angle, every moment you'd fall into it. They're smiling as they walk away, already picturing you struggling at the bottom. But before they even get home, they hear a loud crash and realize it's them at the bottom of the pit. That's exactly how fast this turned around. They were so confident that you'd be the one to lose everything, that when the cracks started showing in their own life, their first thought wasn't, "What did I do wrong?" No, their first thought was you. Maybe they sent something back. Maybe they did something spiritual. Maybe they're more powerful than we thought. Can you hear the panic in that? That's not reflection, that's fear. And let's be clear, you didn't need to cast a single thing. You didn't pray for revenge. You didn't light a candle, chant a word, or stir some cosmic brew. You simply kept your hands clean, your heart intact, and your energy free of their poison. Meanwhile, they were mixing their own destruction, pouring jealousy, spite, and ego into a cauldron until it boiled over and burned them. The curse they sent couldn't find you, so it came home looking for its rightful owner. That's exactly what happened. Their intentions were so sharp, so bitter, so dripping with malice that the universe didn't need your permission to respond. The energy they released had one job: destroy. And when it couldn't locate you, the return to sender stamp hit harder than a freight train. Imagine this for a second. Chosen one. You're walking in peace, minding your own business, and somewhere across town, the same people who mocked your struggles are watching their own life unravel like a cheap sweater. The money, gone. The relationships they flaunted, dust. The peace they pretended to have, shattered into noise and chaos. It's like a dark cloud moved in over their head and started raining at every step. And deep down, they know exactly when it started. They thought karma was slow, like it would creep in years later when they could conveniently blame something else. But no, this was instant delivery, prime karma, next day shipping, no signature required, and it shook them to the core. The shift in their luck was so sudden, so dramatic, that they had no logical explanation, except you. And isn't it funny? They didn't believe in energy, in the law of return, in spiritual cause and effect, until they were the ones being swallowed by it. Energy doesn't care about your lies. It answers to the truth you tried to hide. They could cover up their cruelty, disguise their envy, or rewrite the story for anyone who'd listen. But the universe wasn't fooled. You can't pretend kindness when your soul is leaking venom. You can't hide malice behind a smile and expect it to disappear. That's why, no matter how they dressed it up, the energy still found them. And now they're doing something hilarious if it weren't so pitiful. The same people who once laughed at your healing rituals, your journaling, your quiet time in nature, are now burning sage at midnight, Googling protection prayers, buying crystals they don't even understand, trying to cleanse something they can't name. They're desperate because they know something is off. Something is watching them, and they can trace that shift right back to the moment they came for you. Let me ask you this, chosen one. Did you notice how life works like that? How the same ones who mock what they don't understand end up imitating it when their own world starts to crumble? That's the part that hits them hardest. It's not just that they're losing, it's that they know they brought it on themselves. But here's the thing. This wasn't because you're some sorcerer pulling strings behind the scenes. This wasn't because you cast a spell or brewed revenge in a bottle. No, this happened because you were innocent. And when innocence is attacked, the universe doesn't just send a quiet warning. It erupts. It shakes the ground until the offender can't stand. It rips the mask away and shows everyone exactly what's underneath. When you throw dirt on a clean soul, you bury yourself first. They forgot that. They thought they could curse you without consequence, that their intentions would fade into the air without a trace. But energy doesn't work like that. It's a boomerang. You launch it, it spins through the air, and if you're not careful, it comes back faster than you can duck. Imagine them now, pacing in their room, trying to figure out why nothing is going right. They replay every choice, every conversation, every sneaky move they made, and every time, their mind circles back to you. It terrifies them because they can't undo it. They can't apologize it away. They can't hide from the echo of what they sent out. And now? Now every door they try to open seems locked. Every plan collapses, Every smile feels fake. They thought you'd be the one spiraling. They thought your name would be the one whispered in pity. But the only whispers now, they're about them, and you're not the one speaking. You're just living. That's the ultimate sting. Chosen one, the beauty in all of this is you didn't have to break your piece to get here. You didn't have to play their game. You didn't even have to watch them lose. The universe kept receipts, collected interest, and sent the bill straight to their doorstep, marked urgent. They opened it, thinking it was their next victory. Instead, it was the collapse they earned, wrapped in poetic justice. And the next time they think about aiming their poison at someone else, they'll remember this moment. They'll remember the speed, the weight, and the terror of watching their own curse turn around midair and come screaming back toward them. They'll remember that you didn't need to lift a finger, because the universe was already aiming for them the second they tried to hit you. Number 3, they pulled the strings. Now they're hanging by them. When you think you're the spider, but the web you wove starts wrapping around your own throat, that's when the game ends. Chosen one, picture this. They thought they were some mastermind in a shadowy room, pulling strings while everyone else danced. They smiled to your face, all charm and fake warmth, but behind the curtain, they were planting lies like landmines, moving pieces like a chess grandmaster setting up a checkmate. They weren't just hoping you'd fall, they wanted to stage it, decide the time, the place, the witnesses, the storyline. They wanted to be the author of your humiliation. But here's the thing. They forgot that when you spend all your energy weaving traps, you're already tangled in one. Every lie they spun was a thread. Every person they manipulated was another knot. And while they thought they were wrapping you up, they were slowly binding themselves. Now, the same pawns they moved around are stepping off the board. People are comparing notes, realizing the truth they were told doesn't add up. The patterns are too obvious, the inconsistencies too loud, and the so-called puppet master is panicking because the strings they pulled are now ropes around their own neck. Control is a dangerous drug. You don't notice the overdose until you're choking on it. They wanted you to look unstable, disloyal, dangerous. But all they managed to do was show how insecure, paranoid, and power-hungry they really are. And now the act is falling apart. Their smile twitches, their charm feels forced, they're jumping at shadows, terrified that someone will finally spill what they've been hiding. Let me ask you, what's worse than being caught in a lie? Being caught in every lie at the same time. And that's exactly what's happening. The web is collapsing, and every strand leads back to them. People they once used are now watching from a safe distance, knowing the fall is inevitable. They thought they were smarter than life itself, but life doesn't reward deceit, it documents it. And the moment the balance tipped, karma stepped in to cash the receipts. They're now living inside the very reality they engineered for you, surrounded by fake alliances, empty praise, and eyes that no longer trust them. And here's the poetic part. Chosen one, the web they wove was never truly for you. It was their own trap from day one. All they had to do was keep pulling strings and eventually hang themselves with them. Number 4, they sent up prayers against you, but the echo came back in their own voice. When you ask for someone's destruction, the first life to burn is your own. Chosen one, imagine this. Every time your name crossed their mind, it wasn't in peace, it wasn't in forgiveness, it was in venom. They didn't just want you to trip, they wanted the ground under your feet to split open. They prayed for your downfall so often it became a twisted ritual. The way some people pray for rain in a drought, that's how they prayed for your loss. And here's what's chilling. They truly believed they were justified. They told themselves your progress was stolen, your blessings were misplaced, your happiness was undeserved. In their mind, you were living a life that belonged to them. So they cloaked their bitterness in holy-sounding words, thinking they could disguise hate as devotion. But the universe doesn't listen to the vocabulary. It listens to the vibration. You can dress a curse in sacred robes, but it's still poison under the cloth. Every time they whispered, "I hope they fail," they weren't sending that into your life. They were engraving it into their own. Energy doesn't care about the name you attach to it. It cares about the intent behind it. and their intent was rotten to the core. Imagine a farmer so obsessed with ruining someone else's crop that they sneak into the field every night, throwing seeds of weeds and thorns, only to wake up and find those same weeds overtaking their own land. That's exactly what happened. Every dark wish, every quiet curse, every smirk when they thought you'd lose. It was all logged, all stamped, and all returned with express delivery. Now, they're living in the shadow they built for you. Confusion, setbacks, broken relationships, delays, loss. It's all circling them like vultures. They tell themselves it's bad luck. They blame fake friends or some vague spiritual attack. But deep down in the silence, they know. They remember what they asked for. They remember how much energy they put into hoping you'd sink. And the irony? They never realized the most powerful spell they cast was on themselves. You don't poison the river someone else drinks from without swallowing the same water. Their own tongue became the shovel, their own heart became the pit. You didn't have to fight. You didn't have to prove innocence. They aligned with destruction all on their own. And now, chosen one, they're learning the hard truth. What you put out, even in whispers, will always come back home. Number 5. They tried to bury you to rise. Now they're sinking in the same dirt. When you pull someone down to climb higher, you don't rise. You just end up stuck in the pit with them. Chosen one, imagine this. They stood there convinced that your success was blocking their sunlight. They didn't see their own insecurities, their own lack of vision, or their own unwillingness to do the real work. No, in their mind, you were the problem. So they hatched a plan. Not a clumsy, heat-of-the-moment betrayal, but a cold, calculated blueprint to erase you. Backroom conversations, strategic lies, quiet phone calls to the right people. And the cruelest part? They really believed that the moment you were gone, their path would be wide open. But here's what they never factored in. Removing someone doesn't remove the truth. They thought taking you out would make space for their rise. But instead, it shut every door they tried to walk through. Instead of climbing, they started sinking. Deals that once looked solid began crumbling. Partnerships they counted on dissolved. Opportunities dried up in their hands like sand slipping through fingers. This wasn't bad luck. This was spiritual consequence. You cannot poison the ground for someone else and expect your garden to bloom. The soil they built their ambitions on was already contaminated, with envy, with malice, with the dirt they threw on your name. And that's why nothing they touched lasts. They might have gotten a little taste of elevation at first, some applause, a brief spotlight, but it was hollow. Now the claps have faded, the light has dimmed, and every step forward feels like walking through mud. Imagine them now sitting up at night, staring at the ceiling, knowing something is off. They can feel it. Nothing flows. Nothing sticks. Everything rusts the moment they touch it. That's the part they never prepared for, the emptiness. Because it's one thing to chase success, but it's another to chase it by trying to erase someone else. That's not ambition. That's self-destruction, wearing ambition's mask. And here's the brutal truth. They didn't just sabotage you, they sabotaged themselves. The moment they aimed at you, they signed a silent contract with their own downfall. That's why their path is frozen. Not because people are against them, not because the universe is cruel, but because what they planted wasn't growth. It was rot. And now, chosen one, that rot is wrapping around their own ankles, pulling them down into the very ground they dug for you. Number 6, they tried to make you the villain. Now their audience knows the real story. When the smoke clears, the liar fears the silence, because that's when people start thinking for themselves. Chosen one, imagine this. They didn't just tell one little lie to get a quick win. They launched a campaign. You weren't even in the room, yet you were the main character in their twisted stories. They painted you as unstable, selfish, disloyal, whatever they needed to make people turn their backs. Group chats were lit up with your name. Whisper networks passed you around like gossip currency. And the sickest part? They made it all sound believable, because they laced each lie with just enough truth to make it stick. And for a while it worked. You saw it in the way people's eyes changed when they looked at you. Invitations stopped. Calls went unanswered. Friends backed away without explanation. You could feel the weight of their judgment before you even opened your mouth, and you stayed silent, not because you were weak, but because you knew truth doesn't need to shout to survive. Time is the friend of the honest and the enemy of the manipulator. Slowly, the cracks started to show. The very people who once called you the problem began having problems with everyone. The ones who claimed you were too much somehow had the same drama with every circle they entered. Patterns emerged, and whispers started turning on the puppet master who pulled the strings. Now the same people who believe the worst about you are waking up with guilt pressing on their chest. They're embarrassed, not just because they were wrong, but because they see how easily they were used. They helped carry someone else's bitterness, thinking it was truth, and now they see it for what it really was: projection. Some didn't mean to hurt you. They just never asked for your side. They were quick to listen, slow to think. But now with the mask off and the dust settled, they're seeing your peace, your growth, your consistency. Without you saying a word, your life has become the evidence. And that's what's choking them now. The realization that they bet against the wrong soul, that they doubted the one person who never wavered. The lies they once passed around so freely now taste like ash in their mouths. And deep down, they know you were never the villain. You were the target, and they helped paint the bullseye. Number 7, they laughed at your rock bottom. Now their own ground is cracking. The moment you clap for someone else's pain, you've already bought a ticket for your own. Chosen one, picture this. Your world was falling apart. Maybe you were sleeping in your car. Maybe you were in a hospital bed. Maybe your heart was split open from betrayal. And while you were fighting to breathe through it, they were smirking. They didn't just watch your suffering, they fed on it. They passed your situation around like a punchline, traded it like cheap gossip, and behind closed doors they laughed like it was their favorite show. Some even had the nerve to fake sympathy in public, sending hollow, "hope you're okay" messages while privately calling your downfall karma. But here's the truth they would never admit. What really bothered them wasn't your struggle, it was the way you still carried yourself. Even in survival mode, you had a light, you had a presence, and that light irritated their shadows. They felt taller only when you were on your knees. Your hardship made them feel safe. Your heartbreak made them feel powerful. They thought your pain meant they'd won, that the universe had turned its back on you. But what they didn't see was that your suffering wasn't an ending. It was the reset button on your story. While they were mocking, the universe was rebuilding you brick by brick. Now the shift has started. Slowly, the stability they took for granted is crumbling. Money isn't flowing like it used to. Relationships they counted on are strained. Their home doesn't feel like home anymore. The peace they once flaunted has been replaced with a constant edge of anxiety. And they're panicking because they can't understand why the ground beneath them is turning to quicksand. But you do. You've seen this pattern before. You know it's not bad luck, it's balance. It's the universe auditing their soul and charging interest on every laugh they took at your expense. The same eyes that once looked at you with pity or mockery are now wide with fear. They're searching for peace in the same silence they once used to tear you down. And the universe, it isn't being cruel, it's being fair. You didn't curse them, you didn't plot against them, you just survived. The math took care of itself, and now everything they built on your pain is collapsing because it was never built on truth. It was built on arrogance, and arrogance, chosen one, always turns to ashes. Number 8, they tried to sit on the throne, now they're banished from the room. The moment you try to rewrite someone else's destiny, you sign away your own. Chosen one, imagine someone walking into your life with a pen in hand, determined to edit your story. They weren't content to just hurt you, they wanted to redefine you. In their mind, if they could block the right doors, twist the right connections, and poison the right minds, they could reshape not just how people saw you, but how far you'd ever go. They weren't just meddling, they were trespassing into territory they had no authority over. They crowned themselves gatekeeper of your future. They decided who should love you, who should leave you, what opportunities you deserved, and which ones should mysteriously disappear. They didn't trust the natural flow of life. They wanted control so badly they tried to become the architect of your fate. But here's the problem with trying to play God in someone else's story. Eventually, you find yourself speaking into a void. The silence of the divine is the loudest consequence of arrogance. That's where they are now. They pray, but nothing moves. They set intentions, but the doors stay locked. They try to manifest, but it all evaporates before it can take shape. It's not a random dry spell. It's the echo of overstepping. They touched what was sacred, and now they're cut off from the very source they used to rely on. Imagine them now, pacing the floor, lighting candles, whispering words into the air, only to feel nothing. No peace, no guidance, just a heavy stillness pressing on their chest. That's not a test. That's a verdict. They tampered with what was never theirs to touch, and the covering that once shielded them has been stripped away. They thought they could sit on a throne that didn't belong to them. They thought they could edit someone else's divine timing without consequence. But the truth is, when you attempt to block what was destined for another, you don't just fail, you lose your own alignment. Now they are spiritually exiled. What once flowed freely is now met with friction at every turn. They are standing outside the gates they once pretended to guard, looking in, realizing too late that the position they tried to claim was never available. And chosen one, that's a loss no amount of control can recover. Because when you try to play God in someone else's life, you're not just trespassing, you're erasing yourself from the presence you thought you could manipulate. Number 9, they summoned darkness for you. Now it's sleeping in their bed. When you invite the dark in to hurt someone else, it doesn't ask whose soul it's allowed to stay in. Chosen one, imagine someone's hate running so deep, so obsessive, that destroying your peace became their hobby. They tried lies. They tried isolation. But when those didn't break you, they decided to go darker, crossing a line they could never uncross. They sought out people who promised them results. They spent money, whispered your name into flames, scribbled curses on paper, and called on forces they didn't even understand. In their arrogance, they thought they were in control of what they summoned. At first, they thought it worked. Maybe you felt heavy. Maybe things in your life got strange. Unexpected losses, restless nights, sudden waves of anxiety, bad dreams you couldn't shake. They probably smirked, thinking their little rituals had worked. But here's what they didn't know. You were protected before they ever thought of you. Their energy might have brushed your door, but it couldn't enter. And when dark energy has no place to land, it doesn't vanish. It circles back home. You cannot send poison into the wind without breathing it back in. Now, they're living in the shadow they called on. They're not sleeping. They're hearing whispers when the room is empty. They feel watched, even in their own home. They see figures in the corner of their eye that vanish when they turn their head. And the worst part, it's not imagination, it's infestation. Their peace is gone. Their mind is cluttered, restless. Every corner of their home feels heavy. No candle, no sage, no crystal can push it out, because it was born from pure hate, and hate has a way of nesting in its owner. The forces they thought would handle you now sit at their own table, eat from their own plate, follow them from room to room. And here's the rule they didn't understand. Dark energy demands payment, always. And when it comes to collect, it takes more than they ever expected. It takes their sleep, their health, their sanity. They open doors without reading the cost written on them. This isn't you getting revenge. This is their own decision swallowing them whole. They ignored warnings, their gut, their dreams, the little flashes of doubt, and chased a false sense of victory. And now, chosen one, the darkness they tried to bury you with is sitting on their chest every night, and it's not moving. Number 10, they stole your light. Now they can't see through their own darkness. When you take from a soul that gave in trust, you don't walk away richer, you walk away cursed with the emptiness you created. Chosen one, imagine handing someone the most fragile, precious part of you, not because you had to, but because you trusted them. You let them see your fears, your dreams, your quiet hopes. You gave them access to your loyalty, your patience, your vulnerability. And instead of protecting it, they used it as leverage. They mocked it behind your back. They drained your kindness like a battery, and when there was nothing left to take, they left you in silence to clean up the wreckage alone. What they didn't understand is that betraying a pure heart is not just emotional harm, it's a spiritual wound. And wounds like that don't just stay with the victim. They echo back to the one who caused them. The universe was watching. And while they walked away thinking they'd won, they were already losing something far greater than they realized: their peace. At first, the shift is quiet. Opportunities start slipping through their fingers. Timing falls apart. Little joys lose their spark. Then it grows heavier. Sleep turns restless. Thoughts turn cluttered. They wake up already tired. No matter what they do, it feels like they're moving through fog. That's the price of taking from someone they were never meant to harm. They didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves they could only be in your presence. That grounded, clear, supported version. Without you, their world feels like a haunted maze. Every turn promising something, but ending in dead ends. Even surrounded by people, they feel isolated. Even in moments that should bring happiness, they feel nothing but emptiness. The soul keeps score, and it always calls in the debt. What they stole wasn't just time, love, or trust. It was light. And light, once stolen, doesn't stay in the thief's hands. It burns them. Now their life is dimmer. Their spirit is restless. Their emotions swing like a pendulum, unpredictable and exhausting. This isn't revenge. It's reflection. You didn't have to curse them. The universe simply mirrored back the emptiness they created in you. They took something sacred and treated it carelessly. And now they live with the quiet torment of knowing something precious is gone, and it's never coming back. And that, chosen one, is a weight far heavier than anything they put on you. Number 11. They tried to erase you. Now the universe is putting you on the throne. When they tried to write you out, they didn't know the author had already finished the book. Chosen one, they didn't just dislike you, they orchestrated a full erasure campaign. This wasn't petty gossip, it was strategic. They turned group chats into war rooms, whispered lies with fake sympathy, and wore massive concern while sharpening the knives behind your back. Every move was calculated: make you irrelevant, make you invisible, make people question your worth, your stability, even your sanity. But here's the truth they couldn't face. You were never appointed by them in the first place, so you could never be removed by them. Your presence didn't come from their acceptance. Your influence didn't require their endorsement. Your light wasn't powered by their applause. It was self-sustaining. They buried you, not knowing you were a seed. That's why their tactics failed. They threw dirt on your name, but you used it to grow roots. They turned people against you, but truth has a way of clearing its own path. They wanted you forgotten, but instead your resilience made you unforgettable. Now the reversal has begun. The loud, confident personas they built are cracking. The same rooms they once dominated are quietly closing their doors on them. The praise they live for is being replaced by side eyes and suspicion. Meanwhile, you are stepping into spaces they swore you'd never touch. Spaces that feel too pure, too perfectly timed to be man-made. Because they aren't. This is alignment. This is the universe saying, I saw everything and now it's time. This is what I call divine inversion. The schemers scrambling, the silencers silenced, the gatekeepers locked out of their own gates. And you're being crowned in plain sight. Not because you fought for it, but because truth fought for you. Your name is being restored without your hands lifting a finger. People who once overlooked you are now seeking you out. Opportunities that were blocked are opening effortlessly. And this time, it's not fragile, because what's built in truth doesn't crumble under lies. They wanted you gone, chosen one, but the universe wanted you visible, elevated, and undeniable. And when the universe decides to place a crown on your head, no amount of jealousy, envy, or sabotage can knock it off. They tried to cancel you. Now they're just witnesses to your coronation. Number 12. They mocked the wrong soul. Now their laughter echoes in a silent heaven. The laugh you use to humiliate someone else will one day be the echo that haunts your own walls. Chosen one, they thought you were just another easy target, another name to throw around in their jokes, another person to degrade so they could feel taller. They didn't see your depth. They didn't recognize your strength. And they had no idea that while they were ridiculing you, they were laughing directly at the wrong one. They mistook your calm for weakness, your quiet for emptiness, your grace for a lack of power. They didn't know the universe was listening. They didn't know every smirk, every mocking story, every eye roll when your name came up was being recorded, not by man, but by a law far above their understanding. You weren't in their life by accident. You were a mirror, a measuring stick, a test, and they failed spectacularly. You weren't the fool. They were revealing themselves in front of an audience they couldn't see. They thought their cruelty was clever. They thought your pain was proof they were winning. But life has a way of flipping the lens. And now, they are living inside the very silence they once used to mock you. Doors that used to fly open for them are sealed. The people who once favored them have gone quiet. Their prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling. It's not coincidence, it's consequence. They're learning that the heaviest punishment isn't a loud strike, it's divine distance. The universe doesn't slam the door out of cruelty, it closes it as correction. What they see now as bad luck is really a spiritual timeout. Not because you cursed them, not because you fought back, but because they mishandled what was never theirs to mishandle. And the haunting part? They remember. They remember the exact moments they chose mockery over mercy, gossip over grace. They remember the satisfaction they felt when they thought you'd never recover. Only now that memory tastes bitter because they can see it clearly. It was the moment the shift began. They laughed at you, not realizing they were laughing at their own downfall. Now they sit with an emptiness nothing fills. The applause doesn't soothe. The winds feel hollow. The rooms feel colder. And they can't admit it out loud, but they know. They crossed a line they can't uncross. You, chosen one, keep glowing. Keep rising. Keep moving forward. Because the crown they once tried to knock off your head was never theirs to touch. It was forged in pain, tempered in purpose, and secured by hands that no lie, no jealousy, and no scheme can reach. They didn't just mock a person, they mishandled a divine test. And now, while your light keeps climbing, they are left to wrestle with the shadows they invited in themselves. This isn't revenge. This is the universe keeping receipts. And the same people who once found joy in your supposed ending are now living proof that justice doesn't miss its mark. And so, chosen one, here we are, full circle. What they meant for your ending has only marked your beginning. You've seen the tables turn, the mask slip, and the justice unfold right in front of you. Let their downfall be your reminder. You never have to fight dirty when the universe fights for you. Your rise is the only response you'll ever need. If this message hit home, show your alignment, hit that like button, drop the number 777 in the comments, subscribe for more truth like this, and share it with someone who needs to know that real justice always arrives.